Okay, well, welcome everybody to our second workshop on the nuts and bolts of op-ed writing. We are recording today's workshop, so we will also be making it available on YouTube in the coming weeks, and this will be something for those of you here today to refer back to as you need and want to do so. And for those who can't make it to join us today in person to, of course, watch it as their schedule allows. My name is Dr. Keith McCall. I am the Assistant Director of the Office of Graduate Fellowships and Awards. We are part of the graduate school here at FSU. I'm joined today by the Director of our office and Associate Dean in the graduate school, Dr. Adrian Stevenson, and by our guest facilitator today, Ana Goni-Lessan, who is the State Watchdog Reporter with USA Today Florida, currently, or previously, a Assistant Op-Ed Editor with the Houston Chronicle. Ana has a bachelor's in journalism from the University of Florida. Don't hold that against her. They do have an actual journalism program, and we do not, so that is why she went there. She also has a master's in journalism from Boston University, and we are thrilled to have her as our facilitator for this. She has a lot of expertise in thinking about what makes a good pitch for an op-ed and what are the moving parts of an op-ed. So I am going to turn it over to Ana to lead us through today's session. Oh, actually, I'm not yet. I'm going to say one. So this workshop is a chance for you all to learn about writing op-eds, but it's in preparation for a new initiative that the graduate school will be launching this fall. For the first time ever, we will have a graduate student op-ed competition in the fall. It'll be a chance for you to write an op-ed, have it judged, and potentially to win a cash prize based on the quality of your op-ed. So we'll be providing registration and more details about that once the fall semester gets going, but we'll have a kickoff event during Discovery Days, the first full week of October, I believe. October 8th, I think, is our kickoff panel. We'll have a panel discussion with some faculty members from FSU and some other community members talking about the importance of public engagement, whether that's through op-ed or other forms of outreach, but to just sort of get you energized and thinking about why it's so important to communicate with public audiences. And then we'll kick off the competition, which will be due, your op-eds would be due in late October. And we will have we will name the award recipients of that by late November or early December. So please be on the lookout for information about that. Everybody who registered or attended this workshop or the previous one will be on a specific mailing list in which we will send out information about that. We'll also advertise it through our campus organization and our social media. So please follow up with us if you have questions about that competition. But I hope that you're all here today because you're actually interested in writing op-eds, and we'll use this competition as a way to spur you to write your first. Now I will turn it over to Ana to lead us through today's session on actually writing op-eds.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to, okay. Start the slideshow. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Ana. Can you guys hear me okay? Cool.
Yep.
Yes. Awesome. So my name is Ana. I'm a reporter with USA Today Florida. I'm the state watchdog reporter, which is kind of like a fancy way of saying I'm a government accountability political reporter. I used to work as an assistant op-ed editor at the Houston Chronicle, and but really I've been a journalist for a very long time. I've worked in newspapers, since before I even graduated college. But today I'm going to help you guys kind of figure out how you can write an op-ed and where your expertise kind of fits in the journalism newspaper world. All right, so my first thing that I want to tell you guys is write what you know. Now we have a lot of people here. I'm wondering if you guys can, I guess if there's a chat, you can tell me like what you're studying. What's your specialty? You can put it in the chat. Clinical psychology, medicine, musicology, all history. Wow, I didn't even know that was a thing. Okay, awesome. Very cool. So the reason why I do this is write what you know. You are the expert, right? So for example, in this chat, we have Masters of Social Work, we have fetal neurotoxicology. I don't know anything about that. Don't know. But what I do know is think of that as your beat, right? So in journalism, we have beats, right? So like my beat, for example, I do a lot of education stuff in politics. I deal a lot with immigration and abortion, right? I also deal a lot with the overdose crisis, which is what I have here, right? Write what you know. This is what I know. I know about the overdose crisis. I know about fentanyl. I know about these things. That's one of my beats, right? So think of your, your subject matter as your beat. And I'm sure you're passionate about your subject matter, right? You're very passionate. So you need to tell us why we should care, right? That's kind of what an op-ed is. It's a way for you to share your opinion about something that you think is important and make us care. And the reason why I say dumb it down is, for example, I'm going to go look through the topics again. Deep sea ecology. I don't know anything about that except that it's scary down there, right? I don't know what's going on down there. I just know that it's scary and there's big things that we don't even know, right? So I need you to explain those things to me in a simple way to get me to care, which seems easy, but it's not. You guys are in your field. You can use jargon, you can talk to your friends and they'll totally understand what you're saying. For someone like me, a reader, we won't. So this is the pitch, right? The pitch is what's important. So the way that you pitch is you're going to go, let's see. Let me look at these. Let me look at these topics again. So like oceanography, public administration, history. There are magazines, I'm sure, publications, or even like everyday newspapers like the Tallahassee Democrat that will take topics like that, right? For example, marine biology, oceanography, we live by the Gulf of Mexico, right? So when you're pitching, look for outlets online, traditional like newspapers. It can be like, the history person, think of it like, let's see, history. What history do you cover, Sabrina? Feel free to just yell out if you want to.
Sorry,
Okay.
I couldn't get the unmute to unmute. African American history, with also public history as well.
Okay. Well, that's easy. So since you do public history and African American history, there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure you have opinions on right now. And you could do something, like, for example, Tallahassee is going through its bicentennial. If you have an opinion on something, African American history wise, that's something you could kind of chime in, write an op-ed about. But also you could do things like there's lots of Southern magazines like Scalawag and Bitter Southerner that you could also write in, right? So the way that you do that is you go and you contact the editors. So the pitch is, first you got to find where you want to put it to, right? You got to find where you think it fits. And then your pitch has to be a couple different things to make sure that you convince the people that it fits, right? So first, it's timely. We need to make sure that it's timely, that readers are going to be interested in it. So this is I literally copied and pasted the front page of the New York Times today to show you this is what's going on right now. Obviously, we have a lot of Kamala Harris stuff, the Olympics, and Netanyahu came to the United States for a visit, right? Some other things, science-wise, it's summer. I'll show you guys an op-ed later about the extreme heat temperatures. So my oceanography people, I'm sure you could talk about that, right? Impact, why does this matter to us? Why does this matter? So for that heat story I was talking about, why do you think that matters? What's the impact? All of us are sweating. It's really hot. All of us are impacted by this heat, right? All of us. Prominence, how big of a deal it is, proximity, if it's close to us, right? So I'm looking at, let's see, Masters of Social Work. If there's a new law, right, in Florida that you think is important, that addresses some issues that you think are really important, or that doesn't do enough Proximity, right? Think of, you know, a law in Florida that's about to pass, that's timely, right? That impacts children. That is proximity that is in our state, right? These are things that we have to think about in order to make this, is this something that people want to read, right? That's what your pitch is. And human interest, that's, yes, like that's pretty common sense. And then oddity, well, that's like Florida man stuff. Like, these are the things that make something newsworthy. Oddity is like Florida man stuff. Like, I think there's a lawsuit or there's a court case in some state right now about chicken wings. You bet that made our little inside chat like, hey, we have this, because people are going to click on that, because who thinks of a court case with chicken wings? But that's what I'm saying. So that's kind of like your pitch. You have to think about what you want to say, and why it's important, why it's newsworthy, and who you want to say it to, right? So a couple things when you're writing. Now, have you guys heard of AP style, Associated Press style? Well, it's not fun. It's like, for example, we don't use a serial comma, which I know probably 90% of you guys use a serial comma, I'm guessing. You know, we don't write out numbers over 9. There's lots of things, right? So, but the most important part is you don't want to write like this is an academic paper, because we write at a 3rd grade level. And you're probably thinking, oh, you know, it's because you don't like, why do I have to dumb this down for people? And I did say dumb it down earlier, but you want to reach the most people possible. And unfortunately, in this country, you know, not everyone can read at a master's degree level, right? So you want to be able to reach the most amount of people and inform them. And that's why we write at a 3rd grade level. So no academic jargon. And you want to link and attribute to facts. So for example, let's say something easy. Let's say it's like the average temperature of the ocean is blank. If you can find that somewhere, link to it. Not that I don't trust you, not that editors don't trust you and thinking, yeah, you know what's up, but we like to know where you get your facts from. And then AP style, of course, your stuff is going to be changed into AP style. So those commas will be taken out. I'm sorry. And then I have the KISS method on here, right? So when you're writing this, you want to keep it simple. Simple sentence structure, right? Subject, verb, object, right? You know, simple paragraphs. I had an editor once who said each sentence is its own paragraph. So that can be, can you link to journal articles? And those articles have to be open access. Yeah, you can link to journal articles and they don't have to be open access, but it's nice if they are. And I've gone too far. I have linked to journal articles before where like, I know that the summary, like, you know, for example, for when I write about fentanyl, it'll be like, here's a journal article that says this is how strong fentanyl is. Yes, I think all of it should be open access as well. But like, I know I can't link to the whole thing, but I know what it says, right? And I just need to show that what I'm saying is legit, right? That I'm not just making it up, that fentanyl is, you know, 10, however many times more potent than morphine, right? So that I'll do that. But if it's like something really specific, it probably need to be open, but also you can probably find that somewhere else. It's totally okay. So now let's see. And so the way that you want to write, so now that you know that you have to write or what you want to write, who you want to write it to, how you write it, you're going to start writing. And the way that you start writing this is back in the day, when newspapers were a thing, like this up here, this front page of the Tallahassee Democrat, World War II, you had a limited number of, you have a limited space, right? For print because it's paper, and we still do have that, but now the print is very small and this narrow and this tall. And so the way that you would write is you would write inverted pyramid, which is like this, right? So you have your really important stuff at the top and all your information. And so what they would do is they would just like literally like copy, like print and paste it into like the page, and then cut it where it fit. So like you could write 1,000 words and maybe 800 words fit, and they would just cut it off at each paragraph, right? That's how it used to be. It's not like that anymore. I mean, with online, you have lots of space and whatever, but you still want to put the important stuff at the top because you don't want people to lose interest. Your most important sentence is your most important paragraphs are probably like your first 3 paragraphs. Your most important sentence is the first sentence. It can't be boring, or else someone will say, I don't want to read this anymore. And so what we do is we make sure those first couple paragraphs are really important. And one of those first couple of paragraphs needs to be the nut graph, which I'm going to go into in a little bit. The nut graph is your who, what, where, when, why. You need to inform your reader what they're about to read, right? And then also how to best use quotes and sources. These are things that you need to include in your op-ed, in your opinion piece, if you want to if you want to include quotes and sources. Quotes are really easy in the way that they can say something that you can't say yourself. They can illustrate something that that you can't say yourself. Like, for example, the master's in social work person. Let's say you're dealing with you're writing about how important this new state program is for kids, and you have a kid who says, I know how to read now because of this program, and I didn't know that I could do this. I don't know. Obviously, yeah, you can interview kids. That's a whole other story. But that little kid's quote is super cute, and that's something that you can't say in your own words. So that's something that you would want to include. But when you're writing, think about the most important stuff at the top. You have to inform your reader what they're going to write or what they're going to read. And then also you have to back that up with sources and quotes make things fun and interesting sometimes. So this is your nut graph. This is a little thing I found online. It's helpful, but it's not everything, okay? So it's called a nut graph because it's the nuts and bolts of your story. It's the kernel, right? And think about it this way. It's the who, what, where, when, why. So this is why this is important, because, this is who's affected because of this, when this happens. That's what your nut graph is, right? And it's basically kind of like your thesis statement, but we don't really call things thesis statements, but that's kind of what it is, right? And it really just sums up what this person is going to read, what this piece is about, right? For example, we will go to this. Let me go back. I'm going to stop share, and then I'm going to go back to another. Okay. All right, so you guys see this? So here's a really good example of an op-ed. This is the conversation.com. This is like really an easy way for you guys to get involved. The conversation.com is this place where academics can turn in their op-eds. All these people are from higher ed universities. For example, this one was written by 2 professors at UMass Lowell. And it's talking about extreme heat is breaking global records, why this isn't just summer, and what climate change has to do with it, right? So this is something that obviously has an impact on all of us because it's hot and it's summer. Timeliness, summer. Climate change, these are climate professors, meteorologist professors, so it has to do with their expertise, right? And as far as proximity, well, you're talking about the US. So it has to do, this isn't talking about Saudi Arabia, which is important, but maybe not important to our American readers, right? Not to all of them. So here we go. Here's a really good example. So we start off with something that gets your attention, right? A month into summer 2024, the vast majority of the US population has already experienced at least one extreme heat wave, and millions of people were under heat alerts with forecasts warning of more ahead. Okay, That gets my attention. It's hot, obviously, right? And then it gives some examples, right? The sources. And as you can see, they're linked, right? Everything's linked, okay? Death Valley hit 125 degrees. Las Vegas broke its all-time heat record, right? And so we have all these links here. And this is the stuff saying, oh my God, it's really hot. And then they say globally, the planet's had its hottest day in at least 8 decades of record keeping. Okay, you guys, it's hot. We get it. But then this is the nut graph. The extreme heat is part of a longer trend. Each of the 13 months has been the hottest on record for that month globally, right? So that is what the story about. It is hot, right? And so then they go and explain, what does this mean? What does this mean? So then they go into heat is a global problem, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then they go into, you know, why this is important. And they have graphics are always great too. Graphics are super helpful. Graphics, photos, all of that. That's terrifying. Okay, so there we go. That graphic lets us know that it's hot. The subheads also, oh, there are solutions. That's good to know. Well, oh, another graph. This is great. And I'm sure that you guys include graphs and graphics in your own work. So throw that in there, you know, if you have something. All right, let's go. I'm going to stop share and then I'm going to go back to, oh wait, no, I can just do this. All right. Okay, so here's an example of a local op-ed, right? Tallahassee Animal Services, our city's municipal shelter, is facing a dire crisis. That's going to get your attention, right? Okay, animals, dire crisis. Kennels are overflowing, right? Think about that, picture that. Think of all the puppies and all the kitties in the kennels. This is awful, right? The issue is not isolated to our community or shelter. It's a crisis that we can't adopt our way out of, right? And then it gives you some facts. Remember, like we saw in the climate one, there were some facts that were like, okay, with sources, right? There's no sources here, but this was written by an animal control person from the animal shelter. So they have the internal sources, right? A recent waived fee adoption event saw 83 animals adopted over 3 days, of which 27 were dogs. The same day period, 3-day period, also saw 40 dogs taken in, a net increase of 13 dogs. So they're giving you they're giving you information. And then it goes into what this story or what your op-ed is about. The root cause is clear: pet overpopulation. This is what your op-ed is about. To address this, it is crucial that we come together as a community, promote and implement effective and humane solutions. And then they go into the solutions. So do you see how that works? It's, you know, you're trying to explain to your reader, this is what's going on. You explain it in a simple way, but also in a way that's really going to impact them, right? Kind of make them realize, oh, this is an issue. This is important. All right. So now that you've written this, and you've written this so well, and you've totally convinced people that what you're talking about is a life and death situation, and oh my gosh, it's the best op-ed ever, right? It's the editing process. Now, has anyone published an article before? You can put in the chat. Okay, Julian, where did you publish your article? You can just Journal of First World War Studies. Oh, that's cool. All right, Julian, how long did it take you to edit it? Yep, months, haha. I love that. Months, haha. All right, so months, haha. You're gonna have hours, days, right? I'm sorry, it's the truth. You know, you might have some days, or if it's really timely, you might have a couple hours and they'll say, hey, here's some edits, look it over, tell me what you think. Or, hey, you know, we need to cut this down from 900 words to 600 words, or, hey, I need you to fact check some stuff. And it's going to be back and forth over email, over phone call. It's pretty quick. It's very different. You know, just be prepared. And it's because of, you know, deadlines. It's because of deadlines. It's because of how, you know, print and news works, right? we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what's going to happen 3 days from now. But right now, this is what's timely and this is what we need. Yeah. So be prepared to explain some of the things in your op-ed if, you know, an editor doesn't understand. Like I said, I am not a marine biologist. I am not a social worker. I am not a doctor. I failed Algebra 2 twice in high school. I do not know math, right? So I might need you to explain some things, and then we'll work together and try to write it in a more accessible way. And another thing is, if you need to make the word count, because I think, what's the word count, Keith, for the op-ed?
So for our competition, we will be limiting submissions to 600 words.
600 words. That's not very much. We talk about things in inches in journalism. So an inch, because like in print, right? We don't really do that anymore, but an inch is about 30, 35 words. So I have to always do math, and I have to say, okay, 600 is 17-inch word story. That's a pretty long story. That's pretty good. But I mean, that's not that much considered you guys spend years of your life, and then your dissertation is going to be what, like 60, 70, 80 pages? No, not your dissertation, your thesis. Your dissertation will be hundreds. Anyways, not to freak you out, but an easy way to make your word count is to cut quotes first. And also, the last one is really important too. You know, this is for your benefit as much as it is for the newspaper's benefit or the news outlet's benefit or whatever. This is to help you in your career. And so if you don't like the way someone's editing it, and if you don't like that you have to explain stuff and you think it's getting weird, you can always say, you know what, I'm going to take it back. I'm going to take it back. Thanks. And that's okay. That's totally okay. Because in the end, this is under your byline. Yeah, it's, you know, it's under the masthead of an outlet, but it's your byline, it's your name, it's your words. So you just have to make sure that you feel comfortable with it. Include a mugshot. Here's an extra. We love looking at who writes this stuff. So include your face, little face, maybe a little bio. You know, like Julian Duncan is a first World War I historian at FSU. Blah blah blah. And then, like, if you have a website or social media, email, whatever, so people can contact you. People will love to contact you. Trust me, my email is full of people who just want to comment on what I have to write. So most of the time, well, no, about half the time it's nice. But it'll be all nice for you guys because it's an op-ed and everything you have to say is great, so don't worry. And like I said earlier, photos are a plus. So graphics, graphs, things like that to illustrate, you know, what you're trying to say is super helpful. Also, you know, just photos make people stay on your story longer online, because they will hold and look at the story, and the longer someone is on the website, and they'll stay and they'll read more. So I think that's kind of it for right now, for kind of like quick and dirty. Like, this is how you write an op-ed. This is how you find someone to publish your op-ed. This is how you choose the topic. All of those things. So, Keith, do you think if you have any questions? Someone can ask questions?
I'd love to open it up to questions and allow people to basically ask anything you want about either writing an op-ed, or if you want to even workshop a potential topic or pitch. I think we have plenty of time for that, but I'm going to start on with a question. When you talked about the pitch, you had these 6 elements of a pitch. It was, you know, the timeliness, the proximity, the prominence. Obviously, not every story is going to have each of those 6 elements. So I don't know if you think about it in these ways, but is there a sort of like minimum that you should have? Should you at least have, you know, this element and this element, or are some of them always expected to be there, like timeliness and proximity? Or
in a really easy, chill way, y'all have friends who aren't in your major, right? Aren't in your subject. I hope, like, you have friends who are, like, I guess, civilians outside of your thing. Ask them if it's interesting. Do you think this is interesting? If they're like, yeah, then there you go. I know that sounds super simple, but like, what would you tell your friend? And if your friend is like, oh, that's cool, or I didn't know that, or oh my God, why don't people know this? So yeah, the way that we kind of narrow that down is proximity. Is this affecting people, you know, in Florida or in Tallahassee or in the Southeast or in the United States, right? Or timeliness, you know, this is a response to something that just happened or a bill that was just passed or, you know, a natural disaster or something like that. You know, impact, this is going to affect all, you know, the women in Florida, if we're going to talk about abortion, right? So that's kind of, yeah, you can use those things, but also, you know, talk to your friends. Be like, do you think, I think this is really interesting. Do you think people would care? I care. That's what your friend says. Oh my God, I want you to write about this. I think people should know about it. Like a lot of journalism is done. That's why the newsroom is kind of this like hustle and it's not, a newsroom should not be quiet because it should be people talking, trying to figure out what the news is to inform others. And so that's why, you know, talk to your friends. Any question? I said Virginia has a question. Or no, she doesn't. My little hand is just on there.
I have a question.
Oh, hi, Amber.
Hi. Do journalists, when you're writing an ops-ed piece, use or find photographs from stock image sites, the sites that photographers will upload, and then you pay, you know, a few cents on the dollar to use in your article? Is that where the photos come from most of the time?
They might.
Or
So, Amber, what's your topic? Like, what do you study?
it's the fetal neurotoxicology?
Okay. So what I might do if I was like, okay, there's this thing about, you know, how important it is that every hospital in Florida has a NICU. I don't know, just making that up, right? I'd probably pull a stock photo, not a stock photo, but like a file photo or a photo from the wire, like Reuters or Getty, of a baby in an incubator, right? In a NICU, or like a little hand, or like, you know, or like it looks like people who are working in a hospital. That's probably what I would do. Does that make sense?
Yes. So there are like specific sites that people use.
Yeah, so what we do is we have our own, so we're part of the USA Today network. So we can use any photo from any paper in USA Today network, right? But also we have Getty and we have Reuters. We recently dropped with AP, which has been this whole thing. But also that's another thing is if your story gets published and there's a photo and you're like, that photo does not make any sense with my op-ed. I'm talking about, you know, newborns. I'm not talking about 3-year-olds. And there's a picture of a 3-year-old in a hospital. Like, this doesn't make any sense. You can tell the editor that. Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Can I follow up on that real quick?
Sure.
So if you're submitting to a particular paper, it's kind of on the editor. It sounds like to make the final call on the photos, would you use like a placeholder ahead of time, or how does it work like early in the process?
Oh, I mean, you just probably won't see the photo until it's published, to be honest.
But I think, so you suggested people could include photos and images
Yes.
and things like that. So I think
Yeah.
Julian's asking how you submit things like that.
An insert, an attachment. Just make sure you have the ability, like if it's something you've made, just be like courtesy of your name. You know, that would be helpful. If it's something you pull from a website or something, that might be a little bit difficult for us to use, like, but also like, you know, if it's something old, like I guess Julian, you do like history stuff, like Library of Congress, like that's easy. Library of Congress. So you just attach it to your email. Yes, insert attachment. That is definitely it. Mhm.
Still on photos. I have original stuff that I use when I travel, and I
Mhm.
have work with children, Haiti, and all that. If a story's been written about that work, gosh, I'm thinking, you know, a lot of the kids, they're, you know, we're their parents. I mean, a lot of the photos are already on our website. would that be okay? Would that be considered, would it need, you
That's
know?
something that you have to figure out with your, I guess, whenever you get the waiver, whenever you're doing your work, that it says could be used for publication purposes. So like, I mean, it's, if you're turning something in that's like yours, that you've made, like a graphic, that's like, that's easy. You can give me that you can give me that graphic, we'll say courtesy of whatever. But you know, as far as with your own organization or other like pictures of kids, I'm assuming that there is a waiver for those kids saying this can be used for publication.
Well, that would be us giving the waiver. That's what I'm saying, because
Yeah, and so if that's
parents.
yeah, no, and if that's the case, then that's fine. But like if those kids didn't know that they were going to be in the newspaper, I wouldn't send those photos.
Yeah. Oh, that's complicated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
Hey, this is kind of within the realm of us talking about photos and figures and stuff. So, like I'm a developmental psychologist. I study like genetic environmental influences of reading, like interested in a lot of different types of stuff. And figures are like, you know, as you said, really great for people to look at, can be really impactful. But I was just wondering, is there normally ever like a back and forth between like us as researchers submitting an op-ed and like the editor on like ways that figures could be improved if there are things that we've made? Because like some things that I feel like I've just had the experience, you know, where I make a graph for a figure and I'm like, this is awesome, and then somebody takes a look at it and maybe it's like good for, you know, a journal that I'm submitting to, but may not be the most intuitive like figure for a lay audience.
Yeah, no, so for that I would just think keep it simple.
Okay.
Like if it's got jargon in it, don't use it. If it's just like, you know, 3rd grade reading levels over the past 10 years, that's easy. Anyone can read that. And that's a graph that you can make. That's something that's that we could all read, right? But if it gets into like, if there's some like academic words in there that like you would have to explain, or there's like sometimes when you look at a graph, it's like, oh well, I mean, how many times you can manipulate data to make it say what you want it to say sometimes. That can be a little bit iffy, but as far as like feedback from an editor giving you feedback, being like, I need this graph to say XYZ, I don't think you're gonna have time. We're not gonna have time to give that to you.
Okay.
So that's just something you have to think about when you're proposing. Like I said, let's say you're doing a story on 3rd grade reading levels over the past 10 years in Florida, and I think these are the 3 things that we need to do to increase these reading levels, right? And you just have a graph on that just shows the past 10 years. Simple, right? So keep it aligned with what you're writing about. Chastity?
All right, really quickly, thank you so much for taking my question. So piggybacking off of some of the questions that have already been presented, my understanding is that we talked about the 3rd grade vernacular, et cetera,
Sure.
et cetera. So not being as intellectual, like it's not like publishing in a academic journal. It's more easy to read, easy to follow, et cetera.
Right. Like, let's say you have a friend who is into molecular biology and has no idea what, like, 3rd grade reading levels, doesn't know anything about like, how 3rd grade reading levels affect like high school graduation, retention, that kind of thing. You want that person to understand what you're trying to say, right? You also want that person to read it once and say, oh, this is a big deal. You want your audience to grasp what you have to say without having to read it over and over again. Not that, your audience isn't educated. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's just, think about when you read the news. Do you read it on the phone? Read it on your phone, like while you're walking class? Or, in between commercials? I don't know. Like, that's when you read, right?
True.
Yeah.
Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes, Grammarly, use it all the time. Do it, please. Oh my God. And then I think, yep. Also copy and paste it in the chat GPT. I do that to sometimes find errors in my story. Sometimes it creates errors and I'm like, no, you're wrong, chat GPT. But yeah, we do that sometimes. Any other questions about, you know, if you have a potential idea who you would want to pitch it to? Yes, Keith?
Yeah, another question for along the lines of how to pitch. Is there a preferred approach, or do you suggest people have a particular approach between either already writing the full piece and then sending that as the pitch, or writing like a paragraph that basically lays out the, here's what it is, here's why it matters, here's why your publication would care?
You could do a couple things. You could write the whole thing out and pitch it to a couple different, you know, outlets. And then when someone bites, say thank you, and then write back the other outlets. Oh, this will be published in XYZ. Thank you for your time, whatever. And then you take it back from the other outlets. You can also just say, hey, I have a pitch. You know, I'm a marine biologist, and I'm very worried about the scallop population in Apalachicola Bay. I'd really like to talk about it. Here are the reasons why it's important. Yeah, you can pitch it like that too. It's up to how much work you want to do on the front end. Sometimes that bites you in the ass, sometimes it doesn't. So, but when you start to create a relationship with an editor, they'll know who you are and they'll be like, hey, you know, after like the third time, they'll be like, yeah, sure. And you'll be able to just kind of pitch it and write from there. Any other questions?
Anybody thinking about a potential topic at this point?
Does anyone have a topic that they'd want to write about?
I have
had it.
several. Sorry, I started talking. Who's this?
Okay.
Oh, I have several. I want to talk about the Kenyan stuff in Haiti. You know, we have this new force. It seems like the Haitians are still doing the work, the Haitian police. So I have, you know, just here, by just being here, I'm having like I'm on fire a little bit. So yeah, I have one.
Marie, I think what you should do there is the South Florida newspaper, like Miami Herald and stuff, they have a large Haitian population. You might not get traction up here. Like it's important, especially and you could tie it to, you know, DeSantis, he chartered flights out of Haiti to help Americans out, like in the spring. But if it's, you know, affecting decisions in Haiti, like Miami Herald is definitely your place.
Yeah, and I've been trying to reach out to Jacqueline Charles, and of course I get her automatic response and nothing else, you know.
Yeah, sometimes we suck. I don't know. Is she the opinion editor?
She's the correspondence that goes to Haiti.
Yeah, so correspondent, she's a news reporter. She can't really do, unless you have information for her as a source. But if you want to write something, contact the opinion desk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also the Haitian Times in New York too.
Yeah.
I was thinking about them. I'm a subscriber.
Yeah. No, that's, I mean, Florida, as far as proximity and impact goes, if you're writing about Haiti, Florida, I mean, there are places that you can, I mean, just Florida's where it's at. Considering
Also,
that they added all the extra law enforcement down at the Keys and everything, they haven't had to use it.
Yeah, I know, it's a waste of money. Totally.
So that's a good op-ed. There you go.
Yeah, thank you.
There seems to be one in the chat. Is there a database to find publishers? No. I mean, there's no like database of like news organizations. Like you just kind of have to. It's not like academic journals. I mean, there are news organizations popping up every day, closing every day. Not to sound sad, but like print is dying. So like you just kind of have to find you know, an outlet that you think fits. Think about the outlets that you read to get, you know, your information. For education people, look at Chalkbeat. Chalkbeat's really cool. You know, for medicine stat, who was it? Who was are they still here? The neofetal toxicologist. Stat would be awesome for that. So, yeah. Any other questions? Well, you're free to email me whatever you want, questions. I can help you. Yes. So like, good question, Julian. Think about the sources you would use for academics, .orgs, .govs. No like weirdo website that looks like someone made it in 3rd grade, like nothing like that. Or like nothing too biased left or right. So like using like, I don't know, like the Blaze as like something like or like Breitbart or something like that might not fly. Same thing as like using something from like Occupy Democrats might not fly, like a news article. You want to find some things in the middle, right? And government sources are like .govs are fine, .orgs, anything from a university, that's great. My email address, I'm gonna just type it in the chat. Yeah. So that's my email address. Feel free to email me. If you have an idea for the Toxic Democrat, that would be freaking cool. And I can forward that to Byron. He is our op-ed editor and he's amazing. And yeah, I can do that. And you can email me for questions, concerns, help with editing, how to like make your pitch, who should you pitch to. Literally, like, state government is like super dead right now. So feel free to email me. I think we're good.
Well, thank you very much. Again, we will make this recording available and you all can refer back to it as you want to. And again, just another a reminder and another plug for our inaugural op-ed competition. We'll be opening the registration in late September for that, so be thinking about your ideas. For this competition, we won't necessarily expect you to have something that fits all of those elements that Ana mentioned for a pitch, right? Like you might be writing about something that actually happened 6 months ago, so maybe it wouldn't actually still be publishable. You know, maybe no outlet would pick it up as a publishable op-ed at this point, but we'll consider it still in the competition because you can tell us why it, you know, it'll be clear that you were responding to something that has happened in the last 6 to 8 months, or you know, so we won't be necessarily looking for a huge timeliness impact as part of what you're submitting for the competition, but otherwise we will be looking for, you know, it to be something that you've written in an appropriate format and appropriate style for an op-ed. We'll be looking for it to have that sort of, you know, that you clearly explain the impact and why people should care about whatever this is. And we'll be looking for you to, you know, to be an expert on a subject and to lead us through why we should care about that subject.
Cool. Well, please let me know. Feel free to email me. And it was really nice talking to you guys. Oh, this is gonna be on YouTube?
Yes, it will be on the Graduate School's YouTube.
I didn't know this. I should have done my hair. Sorry, guys. Okay.
It will be posted relatively soon, Sabrina. I don't know, maybe, you know, sometime next week will be my aim to get it there. Does anybody have questions about the competition? We got a couple minutes left before noon, so I'm happy to answer any questions people may have if they're interested in participating.
I'm gonna peace out because I have to write stuff. So I will see you guys later. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is not yet a link for it. That will all be forthcoming when we officially announce everything at the start of the fall and put everything out. But so the answer right now is no, but there will be.
For the competition, are we allowed to co-write with anyone, or should it just be individual submissions?
We had not considered that possibility yet. I think we'd be willing to accept a co-thing, but you'd have to split the award if you won.
Never mind.
I mean, you still both get credit, but we may be limited on the monetary amounts we can give people. So, you know, if we're
Okay.
thinking like a $500 award, you might be 250 and 250 instead.
That makes sense.
Or, you
Thank
know,
you.
if 5 of you write it, you'll each get 100. But I don't know that we're going to outlaw that. I mean, certainly as we just saw in the conversation, that happens. So if you have somebody else you want to co-write something with, I think we would welcome that for the competition.
Okay, cool.
That's awesome. And Dr. McCall, what is the award amount again?
Still to be determined. We are hoping to model it on the 3-minute thesis and Masters in 4 competitions. And if it goes that way, it would be $1,000 for first place, $750 for second place, and $500 for third place with a potential honorable mention. But instead of doing first, second, and third place, we've also considered the possibility of having some different categories. So we might have rather than first, second, and third, it might just be like, this was the best op-ed for, like STEM-based topics. This was the best op-ed for education-based topics, or whatever. We're still making that determination, and that will be part of the official announcement to let people know what those categories are if we're going to go that route.
I had a question about, I heard or recall earlier it was for 600 words, and not to be like the figures and everything that we've talked about thus far, but again, like coming from a STEM area, like figures can really convey a lot. So is this only going to be like text, or would there be an opportunity to also include like figures and stuff in the
We'll be
submission?
we'll be willing to have figures. I mean, we might put some limit on them. And again, you know, as we were discussing earlier, I mean, the whole point of including a figure would be that it clearly conveys some information. So, you know, we see this sometimes in the Masters in 4 and 3-minute thesis, that people put out the same sort of data analysis that they use, you know, if they were publishing in a discipline specific journal. That is not what we're looking for a chart or figure to accompany an op-ed, right? It needs to be something that the average reader can look at and interpret very clearly.
Okay, cool. I just love data visualization, so I'm like,
yeah, I mean,
kinda cool with
absolutely.
that.
If it helps get the point across and it helps convey the information, that's a great thing to include, and would be part of you know, basically what this competition is for you to practice doing, is communicating your ideas very clearly with non-specialist audiences. So having very clear facts and figures is a great way to do that. So you know, we'd be happy to have that as part of your op-ed. But you know, if your figure also then requires a caption of like 100 words, that's going to count into your word count.
Okay, sure. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think there's one more question in the chat, Dr. McCall.
Oh, yes. I mean, 600 words will be inclusive of all the text. So, you know, as Ana said in her presentation at one point, quotes are one of the things that get cut first, right? They add a lot of color, but sometimes you can rephrase a quote and say it yourself more directly in a lot less words than is used in the quote. So, quotes will absolutely count into the overall word count for the competition. Sorry, Virginia. Yeah, I mean, otherwise people would do that thing that you see all the time in academic writing, where you've got a block paragraph of a quote that you pulled from, you know, a 250 word quote in the middle of your page. And so that'd be an 850 word op-ed if you did that and wrote 600 of your own words. So we can't allow that. Too much of a loophole to let people get past the word count. And I know 600 words is, you know, seems challenging. It's supposed to be, you know, I mean, we work with people applying for things all the time where they're limited to 2 pages for a personal statement. So that is part of this skill that you're practicing with this. You all are very welcome. Thanks for joining us today, and we will look forward to hopefully seeing you as part of the competition. Glad to hear it, Chastity.